Hello everybody. In this video we're going to take a look at how to beat the Act 2 Elite, the Book of Stabbing, using the Watcher. This Watcher is a very low to medium level of upgraded, so I do not have all of the cards or all of the relics available to her, so most of the items available are going to be pretty attainable. Deck-wise, I am still stuck with a pretty early on deck. I do have a relic that helps out a little bit in terms of attack cards. That would be right here, the Molten Egg. So whenever you add an attack, upgrade it. So any further attack cards that I get at this point are always going to be the plus cards, which is excellent for me. But right now the deck size is still pretty small considering. I also am really lacking with getting in and out of stance. I currently only have one stance to get into Wrath. I don't have any other way to get in. I have two different ways to get into Calm, I believe, and I believe I have maybe one item that exits the stance. But right now, just a quick look at the deck if you want to just see it. I said it's nothing spectacular, but it is building. A new card that I put in there for this playthrough that I hadn't really played before is the Alpha card. I'm generally not a fan of multi-turn cards, but when I ultimately looked into it and saw what the Omega does, I felt like it would be a good option to have in there for maybe some of the tougher fights that have multiple enemies. And if you draw this card at a good point late in the deck, you can get your Alpha up, then your Beta, then the Omega in pretty much subsequent turns. But it is still dealing with a little bit of RNG and waiting around for it. So I don't put a lot of faith in it, but because I upgraded it to be innate, I'm getting that Alpha card immediately, so that I'm getting my Beta card in my deck right away. And then hopefully that the Omega card comes up relatively soon as well. So I'm not basing my win condition off of this, but I did help that by making this an upgraded card with the innate ability. Going back to the relics, so anytime I use a potion, I have 5 heal. That is a heal mechanic that I picked this from the store as soon as I saw it because there's very little opportunities to actually heal. Whenever you gain gold, heal 5 health. This started out with the golden idol. I sold that to a vendor and got this one instead. The incense burner is a fantastic relic if you ever get it. If you see it for purchase, great. Otherwise, I think I received this one from a boss fight. But every 6 turns, you gain 1 intangible. That just happens to be up on the starting turn here, so they do 1 damage. The most you take is 1 damage per strike. If I get cursed, I increase my max health. Hasn't happened yet. Molten Egg, we talked about that one. And then the Violet Lotus, which is a great one for this character, unique to her. It gives me an extra bit of energy coming out of Calm. So when you fight boss fights like this, or even more difficult fights, controlling your stance is the single most important thing to focus on. And in most cases, you want to try and get into Calm as much as possible because of the bonus energy you get coming out of it. Obviously, it's not always possible, so it's good to have a little bit of defense for you, especially against a fight like the Book of Stabbing, where pretty much every turn is attack that you have to somehow absorb and block, so you take quite a bit of damage. I also want to point out that I do have a stance potion, so I am able to enter into one or the other. If I get into a bind, I don't tend to want to use this unless it's really going to be a bad turn. And then I have a free colorless potion. Because the colorless tend to be so random, I don't need that unless I get a really bad draw and I don't have anything to play. That might be a good option to do it. And that's something that I also save for other fights as well. If I don't need to use a potion or any type of, proc or something like that to beat a boss, I definitely won't, especially like heal potions and stuff like that. I'll try to manage that as best as possible with where I am in the tower climb, because right now I have a little bit of a ways to the next rest site, but keep in mind I also have a store and I also have a treasure room, so I really only have to do one more fight before I can actually heal. so I'm not concerned about health too much, but I also don't want to lose a ton on this fight. Okay, that's enough about that. Let's go into the actual fight here. So the first turn is sort of a freebie for me, so it's really just a matter of getting some cards out. Because he's not going to attack much because of my intangible, it's a good time to play the alpha and get that out there. And then free damage, free defense to block it. And really at this point, meditate doesn't exhaust, so may as well take the 2 cards that were in my discard and bring them back. At the very least, I get my free cost consecrate back and deal a little bit more damage. Alright, so I blocked as expected. And now we have our first big hit turn, 21. So how much of this do I want to defend and how much of this do I want to block? I don't have the ability to go into Wrath, so Order of Operations doesn't really apply too much unless I was planning on scrying here. But to be honest, two costs for the block here and another one for the block here. That's 13 block. I'm still going to take damage. So I'm not going to worry about the other attacks right now. Scry is really irrelevant at that point. So I could go with Consecrate. I could go with Defend and Vigilance. And then, actually, I could, just if I want to mitigate damage, I don't generally recommend playing this early. But if your goal is to keep your health as high as possible, mitigating as often as possible is the best option. So I took 3 damage. And now we're back down to his stabbing attack. So 18. I can block it with 10 and 5. That's 15, so mostly blocked. This one here is not a block card. It's just going to calm. So we attack with our last one. Again, take just a little bit of damage, and I get wounded. No biggie. Alright, so now we're looking at a bigger turn here. The beta comes up, it costs 2. So it would have been nice to maybe have that extra energy from my other card. But this is where we're at. So 1, 2, 3, 5 on the board. Fortunately, if I go into Wrath, I get some bonus energy, courtesy of my flower and just exiting Calm. Now we're actually sitting pretty good. So I can do a follow-up. It's a free card. Flying Sleeves. Insight. We probably should have did this one first, because anytime you get card draw, you should have looked at those first. Swivel. Alright, perfect. That allows me to play Ragnarok. And then I still have energy for my beta card. So, last piece here, the 0 cost, get into Calm, at least mitigate that. I do not have a lot of block on me, and it's unlikely that a colorless card was going to give me a ton of defense to block this, so taking 24 minus the 8, going to take some damage. That's nature of the beast sometimes, but at least I took his health down far enough where I feel like I'm going to be in a good position to win this one without too much more damage. And there we go. So we drew the Omega just on the next one, just because it was at the end of my draw, I believe. And so literally that's all I have to play. So when I end the turn, deals 50 damage. Adios. So that's the power of the Omega card if it comes up at a good spot. I guess if you play the alpha very early on, you kind of have to go through your entire deck. But as your deck gets smaller and smaller, because those cards are added to your draw pile, your percent chance of getting it only increases. But you do have to weigh the cost of playing that, because it costs 3 to play. So it's pretty much got to be your actual Omega. It's got to be your end card. All right. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to leave those below. Otherwise, we'll see you again soon.
Thank you so much for watching this video and supporting my channel. If you like this video, please show your continued support by hitting that like button, and be sure to check out both my YouTube channels for new content all the time. And always remember, peace is a lie, there's only passion. We'll see you next time.